When my own family handed me a birthday card that literally said, "Happy 30th to our favorite slow learner," everybody at the dinner table laughed. My brother laughed. My sister-in-law recorded it. Even my own mother smiled and said, "Well, honey, at least you're pretty." For 30 years, that was my label. The dumb sister who couldn't keep up with her Ivy League siblings. They treated me like a charity case, assuming I'd spend my life managing a failing bakery and relying on their table scraps. But what they didn't know was that while they were busy laughing at me, I was quietly building something behind their backs. Today, at the family gathering, I didn't bring a birthday speech. I brought an envelope. And when my brother opened it and saw the $47 million check inside, the room went so quiet you could hear a pin drop. My name is Clara Vance. I'm 32 years old, and up until recently, I was the resident disappointment in a family full of high achievers. Before we go any further, take a second to comment down below with the city or country you're watching from today. I love seeing how far these stories travel. And tell me, have you ever been the underestimated underdog in your own family? That night at my 30th birthday dinner in San Francisco was supposed to be a celebration. Instead, it turned into an intervention on my life choices. My older brother, Julian, was a hotshot corporate attorney. My sister, Evelyn, had 2 master's degrees and worked in venture capital. And then there was me, Clara, the girl who barely scraped through state college and decided to open a small artisanal bakery in downtown Oakland. When Julian handed me that card, it wasn't just a joke. It was a reminder of my assigned place in the family hierarchy. I sat there, feeling the heat rise in my cheeks, holding back tears while my mother patted my arm like I was a confused child. They genuinely believed I was incapable of managing my own life. But little did they know, that embarrassing dinner was the absolute last time I would ever let them look down on me. To understand why they treated me this way, you have to look at how I grew up. Ever since elementary school, learning didn't come as easily to me as it did to Julian and Evelyn. While they scored perfect SAT results and collected academic awards, I struggled with traditional test-taking. My parents quickly slapped a label on me. Sweet, but not particularly bright. Whenever I showed interest in something, they dismissed it. When I expressed a passion for culinary arts and business operations, my father scoffed and said, "Leave the business thinking to your brother, Clara. You just stick to decorating cupcakes." When I opened my bakery, the Golden Sheaf, my family treated it like a glorified hobby. Julian even offered to manage my allowance because he was convinced I would go bankrupt within 6 months. They assumed I was just wasting time flouring cutting boards and baking sourdough. What they failed to realize was that I wasn't just running a bakery. I was studying something far more complex: high-efficiency shelf life extension and cold chain supply logistics. While my family spent years laughing at my silly little flower shop, I was laying the groundwork for a technological breakthrough that would fundamentally disrupt the global food industry. It started with a simple problem in my bakery. I wanted to ship fresh, chemical-free artisanal baked goods across the country without them spoiling or losing texture. Traditional freezing ruined the product, and commercial preservatives ruined the quality. So, I spent my nights doing what my family thought I was incapable of doing: deep analytical research. I collaborated with local food scientists, tested proprietary nitrogen sealing preservation techniques, and developed a revolutionary bio-based packaging film. It didn't just keep bread fresh. It extended the perishable lifespan of organic foods by up to 300% without artificial additives. For 3 long years, I lived a double life. During the day, I let my family patronize me at our weekly Sunday dinners. Julian would give me unsolicited, basic financial advice, and Evelyn would mock my simple lifestyle. I just smiled, nodded, and said, "Thanks, I'm doing my best." Meanwhile, after midnight, I was pitching my patented food preservation technology to international logistics firms. I worked 18-hour days, fueled by determination and coffee, without asking my family for a single cent, a single connection, or a single shred of advice. I didn't need their approval anymore. I had a vision, and I was executing it flawlessly. By the time I turned 31, my small bakery was just a front for my real enterprise, Vance Biologistics. We had secured 3 major patents, and the results were undeniable. That was when the big players started knocking on my door. A global agricultural and tech conglomerate reached out for a private demonstration. They realized that my packaging technology could save grocery chains billions of dollars annually in lost inventory. The negotiations were intense, taking place over 6 months in high-rise boardrooms where executives treated me with absolute respect, a stark contrast to how my own blood relatives treated me. When the final offer came through, I had to read the document 3 times just to make sure the decimal points were real. They weren't just licensing the technology. They were buying out the entire patent portfolio and logistics infrastructure. The payout? $47 million after taxes and legal fees. The day the funds hit my account, I sat in my quiet apartment, looking at the 9-figure balance on my screen. I didn't buy a mansion and I didn't buy a sports car. Instead, I waited for the perfect moment to share the news, and that moment presented itself much sooner than I expected. 6 months later, my mother called a mandatory family reunion at our family's ancestral estate in Sonoma Valley. The mood in the room when I arrived was heavy. Julian looked stressed, his hair disheveled, while Evelyn sat quietly sipping wine. As soon as we sat down for dinner, Julian cleared his throat and assumed his usual condescending tone. "Clara," he said, adjusting his glasses, "we need to talk about your future. Dad's estate is in a tight spot, and honestly, we think it's time you sell your little bakery. You can use the small cash payout to clear your credit debts and maybe move into a smaller apartment." Evelyn chimed in, "We're just trying to be realistic, Clara. You're not built for tough economic times." That was when my mother revealed the truth. Julian had made several disastrous investments in high-risk crypto funds, mortgaging our family's Sonoma estate to cover his losses. They were facing immediate foreclosure within 30 days. Julian had ruined them, yet they were still trying to lecture me about responsibility. I quietly reached into my purse, pulled out a crisp manila envelope, and slid it across the long mahogany table directly toward Julian. "What's this?" Julian asked, frowning. "Another business plan you want me to fix?" "Open it," I said calmly. Julian sneered, tearing open the seal. He pulled out the document inside, a certified cashier's check made out to the bank holding the family estate's mortgage, followed by an official acquisition deed. The check was for the full debt amount, drawn from an account containing over $47 million. Julian's face went completely pale. His jaw literally dropped. He stared at the check, then at the bank statement attached to it, his hands visibly trembling. This can't be real," Julian stammered, his voice cracking. "Where did you get this? Clara, whose money is this?" Evelyn snatched the paper from his hands, her eyes widening in pure shock. "47 million?" she whispered, looking at me like she was seeing a ghost. I looked at my mother, who was sitting frozen, her wine glass suspended halfway to her mouth. "For 30 years, I said, my voice steady and completely devoid of anger, you all called me the dumb sister. You made me the punchline of every joke. You assumed I was too foolish to survive without your guidance. But while you were all busy feeling superior, I built a global logistics company from scratch. I didn't sell my bakery because I was failing, Julian. I sold my technology because I won." I stood up from the table. "I just bought the debt on this house. The estate doesn't belong to the bank anymore, and it doesn't belong to you, Julian. It belongs to me. You will never have to worry about losing your home, but you will also never speak down to me again." I walked out of that house that evening, leaving them sitting in absolute, stunned silence. They tried calling me dozens of times over the following weeks, apologizing, explaining, crying, but I set strict boundaries. I gave them a place to live, but I reclaimed my dignity, my freedom, and my peace of mind. Today, I live in Carmel, California, running a philanthropic venture that funds young female entrepreneurs who have been doubted, dismissed, or written off by the people around them. If there's one thing I hope you take away from my story, it's this: never let anyone else's low expectations define your potential. Sometimes, being underestimated is the greatest competitive advantage you can ever have. What would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you have saved the family estate, or would you have let them face the consequences of their own actions? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this story, make sure to click on the next video appearing on your screen right now for another incredible journey.
See you there.